So, what do you do if you have a niche website that's already getting some traffic, but you also want to get additional traffic from YouTube? Or how do you start a YouTube channel from scratch and find a subject that you know is actually going to be able to rank on YouTube and make you some money? Today, I'm going to talk with Eric Worrell. He is a YouTube expert. In fact, he is making over $40,000 a month from affiliate marketing on YouTube. And so that is his sole source of income. He makes a bunch of YouTube videos in various niches, as we'll talk about. And he's learned a process for finding low competition keywords to target that get high volume and that also have good earnings per click or affiliate payouts. And so we're going to walk through that process of how he does that. We're going to hear Eric's story of how he just quit his job, his corporate job, about a year ago to go full-time on YouTube and what that has done for his business. He's clearly been very successful. He's very knowledgeable when it comes to YouTube. And I think you're going to enjoy this discussion because it's going to get you fired up about creating YouTube videos, or at least answer some questions that you might have of, should you go into YouTube if you're considering doing that? And I have to thank Eric as well because he gave a couple of great examples that apply directly to my business in regards to a niche pursuits and Link Whisper and whether I should expand that YouTube channel and what I should be doing there. But I think as you listen in, even as he's giving some advice for niche pursuits and Link Whisper, you're going to hear how you might be able to apply that to your own business. Overall, you're going to get some great tips and strategies for not only creating YouTube videos and how to make money from those, but the entire process of how Eric has been able to find success in doing that. So overall, here's the interview. I hope you enjoy hearing from Eric. And if you want to get his affiliate marketing calculator that we mentioned here during this discussion, just go over to YouTube, type in Passive Cabbage affiliate marketing calculator, and you can get that calculator. And then as well, you can just follow along with his channel, which is Passive Cabbage. And I should just mention, he's got a really amazing goal on Passive Cabbage where he wants to help 1,000 people in 1,000 days start making $1,000 or more per month on YouTube. So go ahead and follow along with him on YouTube at Passive Cabbage. Thanks again. Hey, Eric, welcome to the Niche Pursuits podcast.
Hey, Spencer, thanks for having me on. Been following you for quite a while. It's kind of fun to be able to meet you on this podcast, and looking forward to chatting today.
Yeah, it's great to connect. And we were just talking, you just got back from Cabo in Mexico doing a little mastermind retreat with the Rhodium guys. And I know a lot of the people over in Rhodium Weekend. So sounds like you had a good time and certainly we were able to connect with a lot of great people there.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad it's a podcast for most people instead of video, because I have like burns on my shoulders right now, and I'm probably another day or two, I'm going to start scaling a little bit on my face. Lesson learned from that trip, many of them, but one of them is, remember, if you're drinking by the pool and it's cloudy out, that you can still get sunburned. So little tip for people there.
There you go. Good tip. Absolutely. So for people that don't know you, kind of give us an idea of your professional background a little bit, because you do have an interesting story. Just, let people know what you've been up to recently. And, how were you making your money a few years ago?
Sure. I can give a quick kind of longer backstory, but I have a lot of experience in marketing all over the place. I in college got into event marketing, was working, if you go to like, Taste of Fill in the City, there's sometimes people there that are driving their like Ford and they have setups. Those people are going around the country and doing events all over the country. I did that type of work locally and nationwide, technically internationally, because I went to Canada. And I did that for about 7 years. It was kind of cool to be able to travel a bunch and do that kind of work, but you burn out pretty quick. Ended up getting into digital marketing from just learning stuff online from people like you. Started taking cracks at websites, YouTube. YouTube I started in 2012, and I didn't even know you could make money at it. I just like creating video content. I watched a video on somebody like trying to like how to paint a bathtub. And I watched the video and I was like, this whole thing was just an ad for some guy in Baltimore. This doesn't help me. So I decided I'm just going to do this. I'm going to paint my own bathtub myself, record it, and just see what happens. And that started getting like a ton of views pretty quick, probably because there wasn't so many creators on the platform back then. And it probably took me like 2 years of having content on YouTube. And I randomly stumbled on a blog post explaining AdSense. I was like, wait a minute, I can make money from YouTube like automatically. So it took me about 2 years into like 2014. I think my first day I made like 26 cents. And it's probably the most exciting income I ever made in my life. And then at that same time, I was actually building out niche websites too in 2013. So I kind of was tapping into both audiences and kind of learning about both of those avenues. But I'm kind of wired in a way that I'm not a risk taker. I'm very prudent, which
Right.
is, got its pros and cons. So I was working a full-time job for 4 years at a traditional advertising agency. So it's more so branding, TV, and radio. And then we had a client that was interested in doing video. So we started doing stuff together. And then eventually he hired me onto his company. And that's where I really got into content marketing. With that company, I thought I knew content marketing when I got in, but then I started researching and reaching out to experts and learning from them. The Ahrefs YouTube channel was super helpful for me with Sam O over there. Learned a ton that way. And I was able to grow that website for that company like from like 600,000 annual visitors to over 3 million, just a direct impact on the bottom line for the company.
Wow.
And while I was working there, I feel bad for any boss I've ever had because they just never had a shot with me because I've always had this entrepreneurial mindset in the background of like, I just want to do my own thing. I want to control my schedule. I want to not have a cap on my earnings, all of these things. So I started really kind of taking YouTube more serious while I was working there. I made a goal, I think it was like in January or maybe, April or something, pretty early in the year. And I was like, I want to make more income on YouTube by December, and this is going back to 2018, than I do at my day job. And I missed it, but I only missed it by 1 month. So the following January, the next month, I made more income on YouTube than I did at my day job. And it still took me another year plus to pull the trigger to be able to lead, just because it's not cool to admit, but I'm just not a risk tolerant person. But eventually I got it to where I was starting to do really well on YouTube. And that's kind of the backstory of how I got into doing YouTube and specifically affiliate marketing on YouTube.
Yeah. So first of all, congrats for being able to create a venture that led to you making enough money that you could quit your job and, sort of leave that corporate world. That's such a huge thing for people, right? And so I don't want to gloss over that. That's something that sounds like you were dreaming of and thinking of for, years. And to be able to do that, I'm sure it just feels amazing.
Yeah. And if I could add to that point, because this might be helpful for some of your listeners that are maybe at that stage where they're still doing both. One of the things I realized after getting out is I'm wired as an entrepreneur, like the way that I think, like the aspirations, the desire for control, all of those things. But then at the same time, like I think chemically, mentally, I'm kind of wired as an employee. And when you live in that world, it creates like so much tension, right? Like it's like they call it like cognitive dissonance. Like you have these two things that kind of compete against each other. So if somebody is kind of falling into that world, like I don't necessarily have advice for you, but I do think understanding that and understanding where that cause of tension is super helpful. Because for me, like once I started to believe in myself enough that I could actually do this and I can do this full time, and I finally kind of got pushed / made that leap to do it, like so much of that tension like just dissolved. So there might be people listening to this, and I just wanted to make mention of that because just from like a mental health standpoint, like
Right.
it's such a wonderful transition when you make that leap and it works for you.
Yeah, just to be kind of self-aware of who you are and how your mind works. I think that's, just important for sure, whether it's kind of wired exactly like you or in some other way, just to be able to recognize that, hey, everybody's a little bit different, right? And you need to figure out
Yeah.
kind of how you work the best, or, what are good goals for you individually is super important. So how long ago was it officially that you quit your job and have been doing affiliate marketing and YouTube full time?
Yeah. It's actually been just over a year.
Okay.
So June 2nd is when I started the transition out of my last job. And it was funny because, I was still super nervous because, again, I'm just kind of like a prudent, nervous person, I suppose. But like, I've been making more money on my side job. And I think in some ways, like, I just didn't want to, I think the analogy is like the monkey that's trying to swing from one vine to the next and they won't let go of the last vine. And then you just kind of end up suspended in midair. And that was me. And the vine I couldn't let go of was my day job. And I needed to, because, I didn't spend enough time thinking about like, what's the return on my time? So that day job, I wasn't like crushing it. I wasn't like six figures or anything like that. And it's just like I was eating up so much of my time just because I wanted the security of what that job provided. And when I
Mm-hmm.
was able to finally let go of that vine, that's when I was really able to start thinking and not rushing with the content that I was creating, and then taking my side hustle to my full-time thing. So,
Yeah. So can you give people an idea of where your business is today? And then we're going to go back and talk about a lot of the strategies, right? That either can get other people there, but give us an overview of, where is your business today? What are you doing on YouTube, and how much you're making, or other success metrics, whatever you're willing to share.
sure. Yeah. I think, and I've fallen into this trap too. Like, people will look at somebody's YouTube channel and they look at the subscriber count. And
Mm-hmm.
I do not crush it there whatsoever. My top channel, currently it's called Social Nope. It'll probably change because I'm trying to rebrand that. But that is like 15,000 subscribers. A newer channel that I just started has like literally 42 as of today, called Passive Cabbage Challenge. And we can talk more about that later.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've realized is I now spot channels that have like 1,000 subscribers, and I'm like, that person is crushing it monetarily.
Really?
So yeah. And it's basically because you can jump around on YouTube. Like, it's funny that we're on this podcast, Niche Pursuits, because like YouTube's kind of the opposite. It's more so about, can you hold attention, right? So can you get the click on the video, and then can you keep their attention on that video? And the way you do that is just, little tips and tricks to kind of set a hook, and then the way that it was described to me, and I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but everyone's familiar with Seinfeld, and Seinfeld does a masterful job of keeping attention. And the way they do that is they really have like 4 plot lines happening in every episode, but you never really watch any one of those plot lines for more than a couple minutes. And then it's the next one and the next one. And they're just kind of like weaving these plot lines together.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't even want to leave the episode for that last second clip, because they always do that. Like, the sound kind of comes in and there's just a freeze frame and it kind of puts the button on everything. So they just do such a masterful job of that. And if you can learn how to do that on YouTube, what happens is YouTube doesn't care that much what your niche is. They don't care if you are, a multi-billion-dollar company or some guy in his home office like I am. What they care about is they look at the metrics of like, how long did people watch this video for? So average view duration. And then they also look at things such as like, how long, if this was the first video. So let's say somebody was looking up, link whisperer reviews or something like that on YouTube, right? And that's what they went to YouTube for. There's that end screen, right? So you see people kind of calling out the end screens at the end of YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm.
The reason those are so important, somebody clicks that, and then let's say they watch that next video for another 10 minutes, YouTube's watching overall session time too. So that's where you can start to rank videos, is by keeping attention, also getting them to watch the next video and having a really great experience on YouTube. And the thing I love about it is I have like ADD, not really, but I always say I do. Butterfly goes by, I'm watching that and that kind of thing. And for me on YouTube, I can jump around and I can do any single topic in the world. And as long as I make good content that keeps attention, I will get views and organic views from YouTube and be rewarded for that. So
Yeah. So to clarify, this was actually going to be one of my questions. What you're saying is, it doesn't matter what the niche of your channel is. You can create one video can be on one niche, and the next video can be a completely different niche. And as long as they're great videos, you're still going to be able to do really well, right? Like I was looking at your channel, and you had things like, I don't remember, you were talking about ovens in one video, and then the next video you're talking about Wix versus Squarespace, right? And it's like,
yep,
totally different
yeah.
niche. And so you're saying that's totally
And
fine.
yeah, and I make money from both of those videos too,
Yeah.
So it's like, to do that on a website, to be talking about cooking and then, online software, like that would be impossible in my opinion. Well, I mean, you know much better than I would, but it'd be very difficult, right?
Sure.
But yeah, YouTube, you can kind of jump around and just get into different ideas and topics. So that's what I kind of like about it.
All right. So let's talk about websites, right? A little bit. You
Yep.
started building websites, or at least you dabbled a little bit in websites along with YouTube. And most of my audience, and currently myself, right? Like I'm building niche websites where we write content, we rank, and that's how we make money with affiliate marketing. What's a way either for somebody that has an existing website that they can jump into the YouTube game,
Mhm.
or just other strategies, right? That, maybe existing affiliate marketers could use some of your strategies on YouTube for.
Yeah, why don't we talk about somebody with an existing website with traffic?
Yeah.
So I was trying to think of like, for your websites, right? So what I ended up doing was I dropped, what was it, niche pursuits, I think, into Ahrefs just to see like what pages, had a lot of traffic, because that's always a good place to start.
Okay.
So the cool thing that it's worth mentioning, if for a website, if you go to google.com, we can all visualize what that looks like. There's a search bar, the Google Doodle, and that's it. Like they want you to search for things. On YouTube, if you go to the YouTube homepage, that search bar is at the top of the page typically. And then
Mm-hmm.
you have all sorts of videos on your homepage right there. Some of those videos are things you subscribe to, and a lot of those are things that are being suggested to you based on all of these millions of data points that they have on us of what they think you may be interested in. So Google, #1 search engine in the world. YouTube, #2 search engine in the world, but it's also the #2 social platform in the world behind Facebook. So a lot of what we're talking about today is going to be talking about search on YouTube, YouTube search, but just know that it's like 20, 25% of the platform. The other 75% is suggested content. So things that, you just watch this, you may like this, or we know this about you, so we're going to show you this kind of stuff.
Right.
But what I want to talk about right now is like, how can you get external traffic views on YouTube? And a great way to do that is like, I went through niche pursuits, I looked at some of your top pages,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm assuming you don't care if we talk about all this stuff because it's
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk
yeah.
about it.
So you had one that was, I'm looking at my notes here. It was something on like ways to make money online as a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
right? Did you get a lot of traffic on that page?
Yep. Yep. That is one of my top
All right.
pages.
Yeah. So like on that page, you got your different things on there, like swag bucks, surveys, whatever, right? And I was looking at that, I was like, how would I add a video to that? And why would that be beneficial? So the mistake I see website owners make when they add video, because they've been given this advice to add video to their pages, like maybe you can increase the dwell time on the page and stuff like that. But a lot of times they just take the content that is on the page and they just completely repurpose it into a video. And the worst times is when I see where it's like kinetic topography or something because they paid a VA to just like, put some slides in and put some text on screen. What I would do is like make it so that you can have a piece of content that like makes sense to watch in addition to reading the content on that page. So for your page, if I was doing it, I would probably look at like, assessing like your personality type and what makes sense for you making money online. So we were talking about this earlier, but like, are you somebody who has budget or doesn't have budget? And
Mm-hmm.
assuming they're a teenager, they probably don't. Are you somebody who's impatient or patient? So you can see where I'm going with this. If
Right.
you have budget and you're patient, maybe buying a website would make sense. But if you have budget and you're impatient, maybe, going the pay-per-click route makes sense and doing something like that. So like you could come up with a video that gets into just more so like ways to think about this and your own personality and what things might vibe with you. And the nice thing about that is you can start growing your subscriber base on YouTube, which I know I just said earlier doesn't matter, but it does if you're niched down like you do, like you are.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're creating a better experience for them. And I even tested it because I dragged a video out on another website to the end that was embedded. And the thing that was neat about it was it gives you those thumbnails, and all the thumbnails are all things related to, it was WordPress beginner. So there's still ways that you can even get them consuming more content on that blog post. But the neat thing is that YouTube knows that traffic is external. It knows that it's an embedded video and that's where those views are coming from. But it might also know like, you know what, like these people on your website like this. Why don't we start showing this to teenagers that we think are interested in online income over here and start suggesting this video to people?
Yeah.
So in the video, if you're also referencing the actual blog post that you embedded it on, you might be able to get people that have never heard of niche pursuits on a video, and then suddenly they're clicking the link in the description of that video to go to that blog post. So it just kind of becomes like more of like a team approach where you can
Right.
start having, the traffic feed one another and just kind of add it as like a feeder system to one another.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea. I like that. So it's just, summarize, I guess, it's not repurposing the content, or it's not using the exact content that's in the blog post. It's what is some sort of supplemental thing, right? That it still covers some of the same things, but it's supplemental to it that would be interesting to the reader as well.
Mhm.
And then obviously YouTube loves that external traffic and can just grow your channel as well.
Yeah, and they, I don't know how much Google and YouTube talk. Obviously, they're owned by Google, both of them. But I can't imagine that they hate it when you start, feeding stuff to each other, their own companies.
Right. So let's dive a little bit more into YouTube affiliate marketing,
Mhm.
specifically, and we can keep talking about how websites play into that. But when somebody, let's say, whether they have a website or not, they're ready to jump in, they want to create a YouTube channel, and they want to go the affiliate marketing route where they're producing videos. What are the keys to success there? How do they find those topics and launch a video that's going to make them some money?
Yeah, yeah. And I love this topic because it took me so long to figure this out. I mentioned I think it was like 2014, I made 26 cents. I would
Right.
say over the next 4 years, I made maybe $20,000 in 4 years. And then once I started figuring out that affiliate marketing was how you could amplify your earnings faster, that's where things really started to take off. And I was trying my brain lives in analogies all the time. I was trying to think of how to describe this. And basically, what I did when I started on YouTube was it was almost like somebody's like, hey, I'm going to give you 1,000 shots and I'm going to pay you $10 for every bucket you make. But when I started, I was like at an NBA court and I was standing under one hoop and I had to shoot, just whip a ball across the entire court to try to make shots. And you're not going to make any money that way because I was just really uneducated on the platform and how it worked. What I started to do was I started to learn actually how to construct a video so that I could get views predictably. And then suddenly it was like I was shooting shots from half court, but still not making a lot of money because I was making all of my money from AdSense. And to
Hmm.
this day, I do all right there. I make like $3 grand a month on AdSense. It's not my main breadwinner. Most of the money, if I'm making $40,000 a month, like 37,000 of it's affiliate, 3,000 of it's AdSense.
Okay.
So I started trying to figure out from there, okay, affiliate marketing, how do I get good at this? And you can kind of start going in and shooting free throws. And I say right now I'm kind of shooting free throws and I want to figure out how to shoot layups.
Right.
But what I started to do is I started actually looking at my own data, what was working, what wasn't. And I built an affiliate calculator. And I know a lot of your audience is going to be listening to this, so I'll try to describe it the best I can. If you can picture a Venn diagram and one of the circles, let's say there's one at the top and two at the bottom. The one at the top is earnings per click. So your audience very, very familiar with earnings per click. I don't
Yep.
need to explain anything there. And then another circle is high volume. So if you're looking on YouTube, the first thing I would do is I'm looking at affiliate offers. I'm looking at, what their earnings per click are. I'm typically looking for $1 per click, earnings per click. And then I'm also looking at it is this something that makes sense for YouTube, right? Is it a very visual product? Is it something people have a lot of questions about? Is it something that somebody would actually want to watch a video for? And then I'll go to YouTube and I'll start searching those bottom of funnel keywords, this versus that, brand plus reviews, and things of that nature. And I start analyzing the top videos. And the first thing I'm looking for is how many views they have. And if I have a good earnings per click number, like it's well north of $1,
Hmm.
I'm okay with less views. So maybe it's only got 10,000 views. If it's a lower earnings per click number, like maybe 25 cents, I need to see a lot of views. So I'll
Okay.
start looking at the top 3 videos. And you're familiar with vidIQ? Have you heard of that tool?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Hmm.
Okay, so it does a bunch of things. The main thing I use it for is it's got a free install on Chrome and it'll give you a history of the views of that video. So what I'm looking for is I want to see a steady trajectory up of views. And the reason for that is I don't want it to be this channel has tons of subscribers and you have a spike at the beginning and then it's just kind of dropped off. I want to see that YouTube is consistently serving this video to people. And that's kind of what I'm looking for is high volume and also a steady stream of traffic. And I'm pretty sure that it's on their free version that you can see that data.
Okay.
And then the third circle that I'm looking for is low competition. So it's different. It's I mean, you can kind of see a lot of parallels between niche sites and what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
But competition on YouTube is different than a website. Websites like, what's their backlink profile? What's the keyword difficulty of that keyword? How likely, what's my authority on my site? How am I going to get all these things? And, you can figure that stuff out.
Right.
Even if people listening right now don't want to use YouTube, I would highly, highly suggest coming up with your own calculator that kind of assesses your own website and your opportunities. But what I do on YouTube is I'll actually start watching those videos. I'll look at the thumbs up, thumbs down ratio to see what that looks like. I want to look at, like I just mentioned earlier, like preferably the money ones for me is like really low subscribers. So I know that they didn't like feed a bunch of views into this video when they published it, and then high view count. So 700 subscribers, 50,000 views. Like, unless this person's running ads, which like very few people are doing, or they have an external website that's driving the traffic, that tells me that that's a good opportunity. And then I start analyzing the video just from things I've learned from taking courses and implementing and analyzing my own stuff. But like, do they do the timestamps, right? Like you can put in the little timestamps underneath in your description, because that just tells me they're paying attention more. Sometimes I'll get you extra
Sure.
views. What is their call to action at the end of the video look like? If they don't have end screens, that is so important. Like, you need to have good end screens, and you need it to preferably be something that makes sense. So like, if I was doing a link whisperer review video and then the end screens are about like, look at these adorable cats, like, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
But if I went into something that was like more detailed on what your service provides, like how do you do proper redirects, right? Because you have the URL changer tool. That might get them to watch that next video and keep them on YouTube longer, and it rewards that first video, and it's going to help that first video to rank better for me.
Right. So when you're looking for that low competition, you basically want to see the top couple of videos that are not doing some of those things, right? That are not utilizing all the strategies that YouTube has to offer, the timestamps, the end screens, the, other techniques that you mentioned. And if they have low subscriber count and a high view, you're like, okay, there appears to be some weakness in the top few videos that are listed on YouTube.
Yeah. The nice thing too is, like, I think the amount of research you have to do even to just figure out what niche you want to build a website in, like, you got to get pretty detailed, because I'm sure you've seen this where it's just like, the more research you do up front, the more likely you are to succeed. The same is true on YouTube, but you don't need as many tools. Like, I like Ahrefs. I use that tool just to kind of like do some keyword research type stuff. But honestly, I wouldn't even need it. Like, I could just literally use the search bar on YouTube to do 90% of my research. And that search bar is going to give me the predictive text, right? So if I start writing link whisperer, like what else shows up kind of thing after it, those other search suggestions. And if I click on one of those, let's say I put in like link whisperer verse, and I don't know if you have competition in this space, but I'm sure something would pop up. I could click on that suggestion and then look at the view counts of the videos that are showing up, and then compare those to the subscriber base. And without using any tools, kind of have an idea of what the volume is, because it's already out there and it's going to tell me when that was published, how many years ago, everything.
Right.
So you don't need a lot of tools. It's kind of simple in that way. And I think that's part of the reason that YouTube appeals to me, is I like keeping things simple. So I can kind of like run through things, at least for me, and the way that my mind works, I can get through things pretty quickly.
Yeah, so it does sound a little more simple when you compare it to a website, right? There's so much analysis that can be done, off-page SEO, on-page SEO, et cetera.
Yeah.
In that regard, it's simple, but from somebody like me, I'm not really a video expert, and a lot of my people listening, they've created websites but never created videos. That's where it gets complicated, right? So maybe we found the topic that we want to do, whatever that is, right? We've kind of matched up your Venn diagram. How do you go about then creating videos, right? Like, what's the steps? Okay, you got your topic. Now what?
Yeah. So I love that we can have this conversation, because I have at least enough understanding of your world to, make parallels. So a lot of people talk about skyscraper technique, right?
Yep.
So on blogs, you find somebody's post that's ranking better. How can I do it better? That's what I'm doing, but I'm doing it on videos. So I start watching the top 3 videos that were served to me. I mean, it'll depend every single time you search. If you refresh, it'll kind of, jump around. But I watch their video with a critical eye and see what they did well. How fast did they talk? What topics did they cover? But the cool thing is, for the skyscraper technique, you can crowdsource it on YouTube. So you go into the comments, and you better have a thick skin if you're going to do YouTube, because people are brutal on that platform, and they'll
Yep.
tell you everything they didn't like about your video. But I look for that. And then I also look for how many thumbs ups those negative comments have. And to give you an example, like, and I don't mind sharing this because this is going to be another case study that I'm working on for my passive cabbage channel,
Hmm.
is I need to get business cards created because I'm going to Affiliate Summit East in New York City. And I've never had them created for this. And I am like, you know what? I might be able to make some money. So I went to YouTube and I searched Vistaprint reviews. I find a video that's like 5 years old and it's got 180,000 views. I go to Google to search for their affiliate program. They're on Commission Junction. They have a 5 out of 5 power rank on there. So that tells me right away it's decent. And I think, I forget what their number was. It was probably around 25 cents or something, earnings per click.
Hmm.
But the comments of that top video, people are like, you didn't even cover shipping times. Like I've always found when I do expedited shipping and the slow shipping, they come in at the same time and it doesn't even matter.
Mm.
So reading that one comment, I'm like, you know what? I could do like something on YouTube that's a little bit more clever and say like, here's the $40, if you can picture the thumbnail, because I know I'm holding it up for you, Spencer, but the audience listening on the podcast can't see. If you could like picture a thumbnail where I'm almost holding up 2 Vistaprint business cards and one says $40 and the other one says $190, what's the difference? And I
Right.
might blur out the business cards too, just to kind of, try to get that click to the video.
Yep.
Then what I can do in that video is start comparing those things and say, hey, here's the hook. Like, I decided to get some Vistaprint business cards created, but I want to see what the difference is if you actually like go through every upsell in order versus like going the cheapest possible route. So let's see what happens. And
Yeah.
then I'll be able to show them like, they actually got delivered on the same day. Don't do that upsell, and that kind of thing. And trying to, really make something valuable. I think when you're doing a video, one of the keys is do not just look at the website of the company that you're reviewing and start going over things like price, right? People can find that information way quicker by just Googling that and landing on the site. What you're trying to do is you're trying to essentially read the entire manual and then shorten that into a video. So get into the nuances of it. Like try to think of a creative, clever way that you might be able to talk about something where they're like, yeah, that was a thought that I had and I didn't know, like, I'm so glad you answered it. So I know I'm talking a lot right now, but this is one of the ways that I do that is if I'm starting with something like Vistaprint reviews, I'm going to go to
Hmm.
Google, I'm going to put that in, and then people also ask is going to jump up on the search results. And it's usually like maybe 4 questions that people also ask. Well, the cool thing is Google and all their data is just sitting there right in front of me, and I can get into the mind of a consumer that is searching Vistaprint reviews. And I start clicking those people also ask options, and it'll do drop downs and it'll give me context. But every single time you click on one, it will give you 2 or 3 more questions that people also ask. So when I do what I do and when I do it well, I get comments that are people like, they say stuff literally like, it's like you're in my head. Like this review was awesome. And that's because I'm going through people also ask on those Google search
Yeah.
results and getting like a fuller picture of everything that they may have a question about.
Yeah. So when you are in the process, that's a lot of the research process, which I think is super valuable. Do you write out like an entire script? How do you, before you even record anything, like you have it all laid out, you know what it's going to look like, everything.
I think if you talk to one YouTuber versus the next, they'll give you a different answer every time. I've even heard this from gurus, like, yes, write a script, teleprompter, that's what I do. And then other people are like, nope, I do bullet points on my phone. I found for me, bullet points work better. I do have videos that I wrote scripts for and did on a teleprompter. I kind of lose my personality. It's very hard to read with personality. And that's another good point too. Like, if you do videos, I call it the waitress voice. And I'm sure you've been out to eat before, probably not as much in the last year. But you have a waitress or waiter and they come up and like immediately, like there's something about them where you're like, oh, like, and they go, hi, welcome to Tchotchkes, blah, 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 blah. And they
Yep.
have this voice and I'm like, this person's working for a tip, And I probably do this subconsciously, but I never tip that person as well as the person that comes up and they're like, hey, how you doing? Like, yeah, I'm glad you guys can come out tonight. Like, we got some really good stuff on the menu. And one of my favorites is this over here. So try not to, like, on YouTube, and I used to do this, like I would be like very professional and just like, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to talk about, and it's like people don't want that on YouTube. They want a person, they want a personality. So that's why I kind of got away from teleprompter because it was hard for me
Hmm.
to express a personality with it. Probably just need extra work. honestly though, like you could crush it in that way too, because you and your audience are amazing at like having scripts written, having those SOPs, and like managing a team and all that stuff. So you can also batch shoot easily if you're doing teleprompter scripts. But for me, I just found bullet points work better.
Yeah. And so this may be going a little bit off, topic slightly, but I've thought about this. Maybe my audience is thinking about it. Like, do you think this could be outsourced, like an entire YouTube channel? Like, and I've heard of somebody doing this recently. They found somebody on Fiverr that they will be on the video. You send them the script and they will be the spokesperson on that video and say, we're going to do this review of Vistaprint today. And right. And they go through it. Do you think somebody could build a successful channel if they don't want to be the face of that channel?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I've come across channels where it's almost like you could see that was an employee who is just really good at what they do. I
Hmm.
think the downside that way is like if you lose that employee, like do you
Sure.
lose that connection people had to that
Yeah.
personality? I've looked at the Fiverr route. I think if you're doing videos that are shorter and that works in some niches, like one thing I always say is like when you're analyzing the top three results, if you're doing brand plus reviews, how long are those videos? Are they 5 minutes? Are they 25 minutes? Some things are more complicated and need to be 25 minutes. Some things don't need to be. So if it's a 25-minute video and you're going the Fiverr route, you might end up spending $2,000
Yeah.
to make this video. But if it's a 5-minute video, yeah, you could find a spokesperson on Fiverr who's really casual. I would make sure that they are casual in their presentation, that they understand, hey, you're just, very casual. But yeah, it can be done. I've also seen, and I'm sure everyone listening has seen these channels that do well where they're like whiteboard explainer videos.
Right.
There's a show called the Infographic Show. It's got like 10 million subscribers. I'm like, it's just, they
Wow.
figured out the sauce. They have animators, they're writing a script, and you never see a face on them. So you can certainly do well with those as well.
Yeah. So there is a route for people out there, again, just thinking maybe they feel like they don't want to be on video or they're not the great, speaker. Uh,
Yep.
you can outsource it using a lot of these tools. So for you personally, how long does it take you in like hours to like from start to finish to find an idea, record a video, edit it, and publish it, like one single video? And I know that can
Yeah.
vary because some videos, right,
Yeah.
you're ordering on Vistaprint and waiting a week to get your box, and and others it's quicker. But just to give people an idea.
Yeah. So that's a really great question. I left one thing off when I was explaining that calculator because I didn't want to like get too far into the weeds, but like the center of those three circles of the Venn diagram I call ROT, return on time. So part of what I do for my calculator is I try to come up with an estimate of how long that video is going to take. And when I put
Okay.
all the data into the tool, at the very bottom will say, I think I will get a return on time per hour of X. And if I find it's going to be like $50, I don't do it. If I'm going to get $200, I may consider it, kind of thing. But I also look at how evergreen I think that video is. And that's really easy to figure out because you just look at other people's videos that are getting tons of views still. And if it's 5 years old, I might be able to create something that will last for 5 years. Just a quick aside too, like if people are looking for that calculator, just go to YouTube, search passive cabbage YouTube affiliate calculator. You'll see, some bald guy probably making a stupid face pointing at something. That's me, but I'll walk it through in more detail on that video.
Perfect.
But to go back to your question, like you mentioned, I did this review of an oven and it was called the Brava oven. Cool thing is it's a $1,600 smart oven that cooks with light. Like I know right away people
Hmm.
want to see what this thing does because it's different.
Right.
Nobody wants to watch a review of this Bic pen. They know what a Bic pen does. That video took me 40 hours to make. I would
Whoa.
never do it again. Yeah.
Holy
And
cow.
yeah. And it is producing income and I don't regret it, but it was just like, I got to use this thing. I got to cook with it. I got to document that. And there's like 20 different functions on this thing. It's an air fryer. It does custom cooks. It does so many different things. It has this really cool reheat function. But what I have found that works really well for me, and maybe this will resonate with your audience, is I love doing like software, things that is just like I can pretty much open a bunch of tabs in my browser and I'll organize those tabs almost like they're bullet points. So they kind of give me like left to right, the order that I'm going to go through things. And then I just do a screen capture video. And a lot of times, if it's a tool that you've already been using for years, you're going to be able to talk so confidently and go through that anyways. And then I just work left to right on my tabs. And it's nice because I can kind of look up really quick and be like, oh yeah, that's the next thing that I want to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to segue into that. And once you get better at doing those screencast videos, those I find are a little less intimidating, because most of the time too, like I'm just like this little thumbnail in the corner, talking, and people aren't even looking at me. They're looking at what I'm talking about in the video. So those ones are really good. The best video I ever did took me 3 hours start to finish, and it's still earning income. And I wouldn't be surprised if the video makes 100 grand, and it was in 3 hours,
Wow.
like start to finish. But it's just finding those little niches, those little, videos where you're like, oh wow, like I know I'm talking a lot here, but when I was a little kid, I loved going down into ravines and flipping
Mm-hmm.
over rocks and trying to find crayfish. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I think the reason I actually liked it is I started to figure out where the crayfish were. And I'd start figuring out like, nope, they're not under these big, heavy, round rocks. It's these flat ones, and they need to be like a little bit of room for them. And I was just pattern recognition. I was just doing this over and over again. I'd like to see if I could find them. And I think the more you do anything that we do, you start to have that pattern recognition where you start seeing these patterns and you're like, oh, okay, like I see that video, I see what they did. I think I can do that pretty quick, and I think I can make a good buck at it. So it all varies though. You get better at it like anything else with time.
Yeah. No, those are some great tips. And again, to remind people, if people want to check out your affiliate calculator, they can go to your Passive Cabbage channel. And what was it called? Affiliate Marketing Calculator? Affiliate
Yep. Yeah.
Earnings Calculator?
YouTube affiliate calculator.
Okay.
And little tip here too. I would prefer if you don't even link to it in the show notes. And the
Okay.
reason for that is, let's say you do get a good amount of your audience that goes to YouTube and searches for that phrase. What happens is YouTube loves it when traffic comes from outside of YouTube, comes to YouTube, and specifically for your channel. Because the reason, selfishly, I want to be on your podcast, there's always a selfish angle. I know that your audience lines up well with my interests and what I do. And Google already knows millions of data points on your audience. So let's say like 500 people end up doing this and coming to YouTube and searching for that. They're like, wow, these 500 people are very similar. We know that about them. And they all came here for this. And then hopefully the information I provide is valuable for people and they start consuming it. They're going to be like, let's find more people like this audience that just actively search this channel out, Passive Cabbage. So it's just, actually, that's something I learned about 3 weeks ago from a guru guy, Daryl Eves, on YouTube. And this is my first time testing it out. So
All right. We'll do a live test and see how it goes.
yeah.
So you've got a big clock over your shoulder. It's some
Mhm.
sort of countdown timer. I know what it is, but why don't you tell listeners what is that and why do you have it?
It actually kind of terrifies me a little bit because it reminds me I need to get my button gear, but I'll see if it works if I turn it on.
Oh,
Yeah,
there
I
we
just turned it
go.
on. I have 927 days, 11 hours, 7 minutes, and 39 seconds. So that's depressing. But basically, Passive Cabbage channel, I want to help 1,000 people earn $1,000 a month in 1,000 days. So I've been at it for about 70 days. I frankly need to get more content out on the channel, but I know how these things work, just like your audience does. It's a hockey stick effect. Like all of a sudden, you're going to be a year down the road, and all of a sudden, you got views and traffic coming in like crazy. And the reason I picked those numbers is easy to remember, right? $1,000 a day, 1,000, days, not $1,000 a day. That would be amazing. $1,000 a month. But that specific one I picked because I'm like, if you can make $1,000 a month on YouTube, like that's enough to like have enough skin in the game. You're like, I want to explore this more.
Right.
And really who I'm interested in are people that were in my shoes that were feeling that tension because they have that entrepreneurial drive, but they're still working at a day job and they hate that feeling. I want to help those people like cut ties with the 9 to 5, and the best way that I can teach them how to do it is via YouTube and affiliate marketing.
Yeah. I think that's an awesome goal, man, to be able to help 1,000 people, make some money through the similar strategies that you're doing. How are you tracking that? Are you, what's the, what's sort of the way that you're going to know that you've achieved that goal?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways. Like a lot of the people I'm going to be speaking to, I think, are mostly going to be kind of beginners, so they
Hmm.
may not be on all these affiliate marketplaces. I am asking them when they download like that affiliate calculator, there is a separate tab that shows them all the affiliate marketplaces, and I have an affiliate relationship with them. So let's say you go on like, CJ.com or ShareASale or whatever. I will see that I actually made $30 because somebody else made their first sale. So I'll see the
Yeah.
first sales. And then eventually what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Patreon, but I'm going to price it in a way that's just like, hey, like, give me $1 just to tell me that you're following along and you're into this and you appreciate the content. Give me 2 if you're making $1,000 a month or if you made 1,000. So those
Cool.
are a couple ways I want to do it. And then the third way is I literally am going to ask my audience, I want you to mail me to my PO box a tie. I'm going to cut it and I'm going to staple it to the wall behind me. And I know it's not going to be an exact science. Not everyone does stuff or ever even gives people the thanks or, call out for things like that. But I think if they can see their tie behind me, whether you're male, female, doesn't matter. I just hate ties. Like I absolutely hate them. The idea, it's like they make no sense. Like I did research on them. I hate them that much. And I think it was a boy king, Henry George VIII of England, started wearing a handkerchief around his neck because there were some mercenaries he saw wearing them and he thought they were cool. And he actually dictated fashion to people. I think it was in France at that time where it took off. And then it just slowly evolved into this tie that you literally just cinch around your neck to show people that you respect them. And I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's where the idea of social nope came from my other channels. I was like, social norms, not for me kind of thing. I need to rebrand it, but I'm really good at going on tangents, by the way, when you ask me questions. I'm realizing that.
Hey, I'm all against ties as well. I'm t-shirt kind of guy, for
Yeah.
sure. So I don't miss the corporate world and wearing ties, at
Yeah.
all.
One of the things I mentioned earlier is like, A, you don't need to be niched down on YouTube, and B, like search is only a portion of the traffic. And I started looking at Link Whisperer and I completely get it. Like if you got a good sized site and it's going to be so much work to go through it and figure out the proper opportunities and all that stuff, like how are you going to, expedite it so that your site can get more traffic? So I started searching things, starting with like Link Whisperer, and I started looking around, and like I ended up going on your site, plugging it into Ahrefs just to get an idea of what pages might have higher traffic. Probably a newer site, but one of them was like URL changer. Can you explain to me what that does exactly?
Yeah. So Link Whisper has one of its features is a URL changer. Basically, it'll go through your site. If you either change your URL structure or maybe you've deleted an old page and you create a new page and you basically want to change, you've mentioned 100 times throughout the years, this one particular URL, you can just change it, right? You can put in whatever new URL you want, whether that's internal or external. And Link Whisper will go through your 100 mentions of that link, change it to that new URL for you. Yeah.
Okay. And am I wrong in thinking that this is different from like a 301 redirect? That this is you're actually manually going into the site and changing it, right?
That is correct. So on your site, it will actually be a new URL, right? A 301, right, doesn't actually change the physical hyperlink on your site. It just redirects it, right? So Google recognizes, hey, this URL goes to this one. This physically, well, electronically, right? It actually changes the URL of your site. Yeah.
So that's pretty nice because you're creating a better experience. There's not that little bit of lag that was created. And honestly, I don't know why. Like if I plug into Ahrefs, it gives you those like how many hops, is that what they call it, right? Like if you have like several redirects happening.
Right.
Yeah. So I started looking up, like when I found that via Ahrefs doing research on your site, I was like, okay, like that could be an angle for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing I started doing was going to YouTube and just searching things like 301 redirects, blah, 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 stuff like that. You won't be able to see it, but I ended up finding how to create redirects in WordPress. So that might be something that's difficult for your site today to rank for. I don't know, maybe you could. But I ended up finding one that was a beginner's guide to creating redirects in WordPress. It's from WordPress Beginner, which probably all of us have been on at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started watching the video, I was like, like it was weird because there wasn't even a face on the video for like the first 2 minutes. There's literally just a static image of it. And I decided, why don't I check out their actual webpage, because they probably have one. And if you look at their website, they have this video embedded on a page on that site. So they probably are getting views. They have 103,000 in 2 years, but they are getting views on this on their website, but also on YouTube.
Yeah.
So if I was thinking in your case, like I'd want to start creating content such as like, you can go for really really hard to rank for keywords on a website, but you can rank for them on YouTube. So one of the ways you could, this was not quite as hard, but I could probably rank a video for like how to get more traffic to your website in minutes, you know? And someone like you that has this massive knowledge, you asked earlier, like how long would it take you to make a video? For you to make that video, not very long. Like you could come up with 7 things pretty quick.
Sure.
And one of the things I would drop into that video would be link whisperer. And here's how internal linking, why it's important. And here's what this tool does. And you're able to like get these really high volume keywords that'd be really hard to rank a blog post for, but you can actually make a video around that and put your tool front and center. So those are like 2 different ideas that I would have for that. Like one of them, just like how to create redirects in WordPress. I would probably start with the very basics of showing them manually how you would do it. I would show them plugins, and then I would show them link whisperer.
Yeah.
You could do a different video that would be like top 5 redirect plugins on WordPress, and you would slide your video into that.
Mm-hmm.
If there's enough of them that actually have search volume because they're sought after, you can do this versus that versus this versus that type video where you put in your 3 competitors of that specific tool for
Right.
redirects, and you slide yours in. I call that the Trojan horse method, because you're piggybacking off of their brand value and equity, where people know of them or searching reviews for them, where maybe they're not searching for the 3rd or 4th option, but then you could slide yours in and show why it's better, you know?
Yeah, I like
There's
that.
also,
Like a
yeah,
perfect example would be like I could do like Yoast SEO versus rank math, right? And lots of people probably searching for that, but I could mention certain things that Yoast doesn't do well, which is internal linking. I'd say, hey, Link Whisper doesn't do everything, but it does internal linking well, and Trojan horse it into that video. I like that.
yeah. And like, this was stuff I'd look to see if you have an affiliate program, and you do, but I don't do a lot with websites anymore. So I was like, do I want to share this? Because I might be able to do well as an affiliate for your
Hey,
service.
yeah,
But yeah, if you have the knowledge set already, you've taken out all the research of it. You've got 15 years, probably however long you've been doing this, of research. You don't need to
yeah,
do any more research on these topics. That knowledge is in there. You're just trying to figure out like what's the cluster of videos that you can create that are going to help people. And I don't mind sharing this as well either, because this is on the Passive Cabbage channel. This kind of gives an idea of like, what do you call it when you make like a parent post and then you have like the ancillary posts that link to it? Like, do you go with like spoke and wheel or whatever, or like what's the language?
right, yeah, like
that?
hub and spoke, right? Topical clusters
Mhm.
is kind of
Yep.
phrase that I would use. Yeah,
Yeah. So you can do the same thing on YouTube, where you might have that parent like video that you really want, a lot of eyeballs on, but then you have these feeder videos that go into them. And instead of it being internal links that is making that happen, it's done with end screens. And it's also done in the YouTube description, putting links to those videos. So to rank for something like how to sign up for DoorDash driver program is difficult to do, right? That's a very high volume, very lucrative keyword. But what I did is I did other videos. So I had DoorDash versus Uber Eats versus Grubhub versus Postmates. What's the best one to drive for? That video, 4 hours took me to make. What I did is, for people who aren't good at collecting their thoughts, which sometimes I fall into, I made a spreadsheet, and I went to Google first. I searched that exact term. I found a blog post that, the reason I think people liked it is they took information from Glassdoor and then gave people like what Glassdoor was saying that you would make for those different programs. And I started putting all the information I thought that was valuable into a spreadsheet. And all I did in the video is I slowly worked through this spreadsheet and explained things to people and said, hey, I also have affiliate links in the description below if you want to sign up through my link. Still free for you, but I may make a small commission. So what happened was, that was kind of like, would you call it like a spoke or whatever? And then the video that was really valuable for me to rank, and this is rank on YouTube and Google, I think still today it's the #1 video on Google, first page results, is how to sign up for the DoorDash driver program. But because I already had all this relevant traffic on that this versus that video, and then the end screen and the description linked to that video,
mm-hmm.
I think it helped that video rank. So I started signing people up at $50 a pop for the DoorDash driver program like crazy. And that was the thing that happened, that implanted in my head, where I was like, holy crap, I'm going to make $30,000 from the video that took me 3-4 hours to make this year. That's close to half of what I make in my day job. What am I doing? So
Wow.
for yours, like, we had all these video ideas, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
Yoast versus that, you could slide it in. You could do link whisper review, and you connect all those things through end screens and different things like that. And you try to take the person through a journey, and eventually you can get all these eyeballs onto that, people who have heard of you and more importantly haven't heard of you, and getting them to consume your content. And then it just becomes this like soft sales process.
Hmm.
Like I never do a video if I don't believe in the service. Like that's a waste of integrity and time. But you can kind of stitch all these things together kind of with that hub and spoke strategy, but just on YouTube, and be able to rank through some really difficult content, such as like how to get more traffic to your website. That's something that would be amazing if you had 100,000 people seeing that video, and in the middle of that video, you're talking about link whisperer.
Right. Yeah, this is all really timely advice because I am going through and thinking of a blogging strategy because I don't have a lot of blog content right now on linkwhisper.com. So I'm thinking of topics that I can start beefing up on the blog, but I should be doing this on YouTube. And I have been thinking that, there's a lot of opportunity there to kind of spread the word of Link Whisper. And so this is super timely. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, I would say just like a last tip, if this is something somebody's thinking about doing and marrying this into their blog, I haven't seen a better example of it than Ahrefs. Their blog is phenomenal.
Hmm.
There's no doubt about that. The content, the way everything is structured, I think it's Tim, I'm blanking on his last name, the CMO there, but he does a
Yeah.
wonderful job. And this is a good example too of how it's not him making the videos. I think English is his second language. He had Sam O make the YouTube videos. He probably found a YouTuber that already knew this space well, but needed more opportunity. So he does an amazing job. He gets all sorts of traffic that people maybe never even heard of Ahrefs, but he's sliding the Ahrefs tool into his videos. And then they do a great job too of embedding those videos on the blog post. So that's really where you can see like a great synergy is what they're doing over there. So I think if you're somebody who might already be using that tool, just take a look at how they're doing it, and you can start to get ideas of like, oh, like these two things are feeding each other and really creating like massive growth for that business.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people want a good example, yeah, check out the Ahrefs blog and the YouTube channel of how they're kind of marrying those things. Then, of course, people can certainly check out your Passive Cabbage channel to see
Mhm.
what you're doing over there to get some additional tips from you as well. And I think you mentioned sort of in passing here, but I do want to highlight that you've been able to build a really successful business. You've been doing this full time now for about a year, and sounds like you're making about $40,000 a month from affiliate marketing on YouTube, right?
Yeah. And I should take a lesson from you and the people who actually know how to build out teams. I'm terrible. I'm a control freak. I've gone through 3 different editors. I'm doing everything myself, but it is nice because my final revenue dollar, it's like 99% margin pretty much. But I know that I'm only scratching the surface on this. I've figured out the search side of YouTube really well, which is like 20 to 25% of the traffic. 75% of the traffic is in suggested. So it's like, how does your content start showing up randomly? Like when you get onto the homepage, you're showing up in that little bar on desktop on the side. Like you can really explode things. So that's what I find exciting in the space is I think I'm just scratching the surface of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe final question here. If people want to, create a YouTube channel and they're hoping to get to that $1,000 a month, they've never created any videos, like what's like a timeline? How long do you think it's going to take them if they do everything just right? Right? If they follow all your
Mhm.
tips, like how long can it take somebody to make about $1,000 a month?
Fresh channel. I haven't read anything on this. I know like a website can get sandboxed. Like how long does that usually take before you kind of get out of the sandbox,
It
you'd
can be
say?
like 6 months or longer. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had channels that were dormant. Like I only made like a couple videos, and one of them I'm thinking of is I started making a conscientious effort on it, and I was making $0 of income on that channel, and I was able to ramp it up over 10,000 a month in probably like 4 months. So pretty fast. But it's all, there's so many different things going into it, right? Like you could be the most amazing YouTuber of all time, and if you have crappy thumbnails, you will get 5 views a year, right? So just the
Right.
thumbnail alone is something you got to optimize because that's what's going to sell the click. So that's like what I've learned is like you got to look at the whole funnel and see where you're weak, look at your data, figure things out. But yeah, if you guys already have like a niche website, like you're way ahead of the game because you're going to be able to feed YouTube traffic, and YouTube is going to love you because you're feeding them traffic and they're going to reward you. So you might be able to speed up that process substantially.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I would say though, give it 3 to 6 months. Any
Yeah.
video I make, 3 to 6 months out, that's where I start to see the traction. And just like, I love that we can talk about this because I know your audience can visualize this in analytics, right? You create a post and it starts doing that slow crawl up. It's the same thing on YouTube, but I've also gone into videos that are complete duds, changed the thumbnail out, went from going like 10 views a month to, I think it got like 120,000 views in a year just by changing a thumbnail out. So there's so many things that you can do to like kind of refresh your content from a thumbnail perspective.
Yeah. Very good. So is there any other place that you'd like to send people other than your Passive Cabbage YouTube channel? Anything else you'd like to mention or send people to?
No, I would say, yeah, go to YouTube, search Passive Cabbage Affiliate Calculator. I think that'll take you from whipping basketballs full court to half court shots immediately. It'll get you 50% the way there in like, 10 minutes. And, I don't even have a course right now. I don't have an idea. I just like educating, and I may have those things in the future, but I see what you've done. And obviously it's taken years, I don't know if you've been at it decades, but like your capability of making Link Whisperer is because people know, like, and trust you, and they know you're going to put out a good product, and you cultivated that audience. So that's kind of like what I'm trying to do at this stage is I want to just give as much value as I can on that channel. Cultivate an audience, and the monetary part of it will take care of itself down the line. We'll figure that out later. So,
Awesome. Very good. Eric, thanks for coming on the Niche Pursuits podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here, and loved hearing your tips. And even though some of the tips were for me personally, almost in a way, it felt like I think it's things that people can apply in their business and hopefully see some results with as well. So thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, Spencer. I really appreciated it.